Hey guys, today I have the BREVILLE Joule Oven Air Fryer Pro. It's a bit of a mouthful of a name. It's basically BREVILLE's most expensive convection toaster oven product. It's an 1800 watt, like most of these convection oven that sits on the counter. It's pretty large actually, and it's exactly the same as the model below this, except which is $100 cheaper, except it has app compatibility with the BREVILLE Plus app, which has supposedly thousands of recipes with like video tutorials and all that stuff, and a thing called autopilot where it adjusts the temperatures for you and notifies you on your phone when the next step is coming up so that you can rotate the food or change racks or something like that. Sounds really neat for somebody who's really busy, got a crazy schedule, or has kids or whatever like me. So that's got a lot of promise. We'll see how well that goes. But today we're going to be doing an unboxing video. This is not a review. There's plenty of those on the internet of this product already if you want to look that up. People who are doing like temperature probes and checking all that stuff out. I'm not doing that stuff today. I'm just going to tell you what I like and dislike about it as it goes out of the box. We're going to go through it together. You're going to get my initial impressions, and hopefully you'll find that useful. So let's go. All right, so never mind how the box is already pretty beat up here because my 4-year-old managed to get a hold of that and try to open it thinking it was one of her gifts. Let's go ahead and open this up, and we get our Joule oven, obviously not rebranded yet, information. It's not called the Joule app anymore. That's pretty funny. It's called BREVILLE Plus. They haven't managed to change that yet, I guess. Here we have our crumb tray or whatever. It goes on the bottom. I can't remember if that's actually what it's called, but basically that's what this is. Really nice. Stainless steel. Looks good. Set this aside. This is the 13-inch non-stick pizza pan. I've heard mixed things about this. Supposedly it warps. It is pretty lightweight, so that wouldn't be surprising to me. But whatever the case, it's used to make pizza. Put everything directly on this if it's something that can go directly on it, unless it needs a different kind of pan. I believe that's how that works. We've also got this. This is actually, I think, another one of those, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong about that, but I think it's identical to the previous broiling rack. Put this all aside here. And then over here, we have our roasting pan, which is obviously exactly as it sounds. You also put it underneath other things when you're air frying them and things like that to prevent things dripping onto it, not to the bottom of the surface to help clean up. There are also some things you can put in those, like liners, silicone liners, or you can use foil. A lot of people do that to help with the cleanup to make it a little easier, because this is obviously a little harder to clean up than the previous model I've got, which is this bucket style air fryer. A lot of people have those things. But this is the air fry basket, speaking of which. I did buy extras of these separately. They sell those, and you can get 3 packs for, I think it's like $40. So I bought those directly from Amazon. It's a BREVILLE brand product. Let's go ahead and get the oven out here and see what we've got next. Rich. There we go. Front of the oven. One thing I should note is that people who bought this thing a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, or whatever it was when it first launched, said that the plug was the old style straight plug. I believe the new one is the angled plug. That's a nice upgrade there. Gives you a little bit more flexibility when trying to plug it in your kitchen, because this thing is obviously quite large. It commands a lot of real estate. It was packed pretty well. So, okay, so far it looks good. All right, I think this is going to go in place of this Instant Pot air fryer we've got here. This thing's not bad. It's one of those dual basket air fryers. It does a pretty good job. Air frying performance is pretty good, but I wanted something a little bit nicer, and I got this, and so we'll see how well it goes. Now, it is a lot larger than this, so we're going to see how it fits up here on this standard depth counter. Let's go ahead and get it up there. There. It's not so bad once it's out of the package. Wow, this is a little messy. Let me clean this up. All right, that's better. Yeah, see, this isn't some test kitchen. This is a standard kitchen, warts and all, where lots of kids operate as well. So let's get this moved over here. And you're supposed to leave a few inches of space on each side. I don't know if I'll leave as much as it says, but we'll try to get it. So that's not so bad. Look at that. It's pretty big. I mean, the other thing I could do is angle it like this if I wanted to, which would also work. I don't think that works as well, though, because you can't see the front of it. And if it's going to be a product I use frequently, I might as well have it facing outward so it's simple. All right, so just kind of put it right there. Plug this guy in right here. And actually, to get this started, you're supposed to do a bake process. It's on the pizza setting for, I think it's 18 minutes, which helps bake off some of the chemicals that are used for shipping or for preparation or whatever. So we'll do that, but I think I'm supposed to space it out a little further to accomplish that. So I'll just set it over here. Take this guy off. Here's some tape up at the top. In fact, let me zoom in a little further so you can see this better now that I got it up here. Okay. How's that? And this is supposed to come off. Here we go. And you see you've got your rack levels here. Those are the settings for the racks. When you change it to each thing, it'll tell you where you're supposed to put the rack for optimal cooking. So that's pretty cool. Get this out of the way. Go ahead and measure this thing and just see how wide it actually is. I always like to do this because I don't trust the quoted sizes. It is about 21 and a half. It's a little bit less than that, actually. In terms of height, it's a little over 12, about 12 and a half probably. And in terms of depth with the handle, it is about 16. Actually, no, take that back because there's a hump on the back. Maybe call it 18 deep. So it's a big, big oven. But I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. And that's what you're getting into when you buy this thing. So, and you can see all these settings here. This is pretty cool. You can kind of go through here and change it with this very nice feeling knob. It's got really soft clicks to it, but they're defined well, so it feels really high end. That's an interesting little line there, but I guess it's on both sides. I think it's where they join the pieces together. These are the heating elements. There are actually 6 total heating elements in this thing, which is what provides for the functionality called Element IQ is what they call it. Obviously, they brand everything however they want to brand it. But what that basically means is the oven has a pretty good sense, depending on what you're doing with it, of how to manage which element comes on when and at what temperature or what intensity it comes on to help cook the food for optimal results. So a lot of the autopilot stuff is completely predicated on that technology. And of course, you get a pretty hefty fan as well that helps circulate the air for the air frying features. So that's more or less the entire thing. And all these 13 features are all derivatives of that same functionality. There's nothing really magical about it. It's just a well-made, convection oven with some other stuff thrown in for smart features. I wish it had a temperature probe, but that's another topic entirely. Some of these do. The more expensive ones have that. This one does not, but it still supposedly does a really good job for most recipes despite that. So let's keep going here. It is not soft close. There you go. See, not edited. I told you. Let's go down to pizza. And I think I'm supposed to put a rack in here. Let me double check these instructions before I start. Yeah, so the crumb tray is supposed to go in. So I'm going to stick that in here. And you're supposed to wipe the interior with a soft, damp sponge. This is going to be interesting. All right, we got a pizza. And now we're going to go to confirm. Sounds good. Start. There it is. By the way, the sides and the top of this thing apparently get pretty hot, so keep that in mind. I did buy some accessories. Wow, I'm making a big mess of this. But I did buy some accessories to help with that, actually. Believe it or not, the cutting board, which I've got right over here, this thing actually fits on top of the oven, which allows you to put things on top of it without, burning them. And it allows for airflow still because the way the bottom of it is supposedly channeled. So I'm going to get it out here and show it to you while we're waiting. This is sold separately. It does not come with the oven. Kind of wish it did for use only with the BOV 900, but it obviously works with the BOV 950 also, which is this one, because again, they are the same oven. Otherwise, there are some off brands of these. Don't know why you would really get those because it's only like a $5 difference for the Breville one. This is rubber on the bottom here, pretty nice. And you're supposed to stick it on the top just like this where you store it. And you can put things up there. So now I can store some of the other devices or the other things that it comes with up there if I wanted to put like the air fryer basket or something like that, or some of these trays, the pizza tray perhaps. It wouldn't look so bad and it wouldn't be dangerous for me to store it up there. So I guess I'm going to let this thing do its thing. It's probably going to take a little bit. It has to preheat, and then it will count down, which I think it says it takes about 18 minutes. That probably includes the preheating. So let's just go ahead and skip to that, and we'll see how this goes next. Oh, actually, before we do that, I want to talk about build quality. I was going to mention that this little lip here does seem like it's a little bit above some of the rest of this. Hopefully that doesn't produce problems. Some people have mentioned like temperature leakage issues where the side gets hot and then some of this stuff can become discolored if you open it and it's really, really hot. That's an interesting problem. Hopefully that's been something they've resolved through revisions to this that have not been mentioned, obviously. But anyway, let's let this preheat and I'll come back in a minute. Okay, now you can see over here I'm getting this rotate remind on the display. Do you see that little flashing thingy? That's what reminds you that you're supposed to rotate what's on the rack for even cooking. It will continue to annoy you until you dismiss it. I think you do that with this. Yeah. Or you can obviously open the oven and then rotate it and close it back. By the way, when you open it, it will pause the cooking. See the timer? Close it back. It starts again. Pretty nifty. All right. And we are finishing up the initial bake-off. It does smell pretty chemical in here, but that's normal again. All right, and that's that. So I guess I just confirm. Now, I want to also mention this thing does get really hot. Other people have talked about this, but specifically the back right of it and even the top half of the back left and even the top half of the left side and especially the very top of this thing is just boiling hot. I mean, you can barely touch it. If I touched it for more than this amount of time, I would probably literally burn myself, I'm sure. So I want to mention that too. That is a negative if you're going to have it in a spot where people can touch it, like kids or something like that. Obviously, it should be on a counter anyway, but that's one reason why you might want to rotate it like that. Although I guess maybe having the hot part underneath the cabinet is probably not the best thing either. So, all right. So that was uneventful as expected. Let's try pairing this with my phone next. And I'm going to try to record this as I do it on my phone. So bear with me a second. All right. Here is the Breville Plus app. And in this app, you can add your appliance like this. Let's select mine. Taking a little bit of time here. It's funny because earlier it found it pretty much immediately and then told me it was cooking and I couldn't do it while I was cooking. So there we are. I'm going to hit confirm. Okay, and I connected it to my network and now I'm going to save the name Joule Oven. There's an indicator on the display on the actual oven itself. It shows a little Bluetooth icon and a little Wi-Fi icon, and there's like a progress symbol with a check. There we go. And apparently it's doing an update, so I guess we'll wait for that and then we'll come back. Actually, it looks like it can already be set up here, or the rest of this can happen in parallel, so let's go ahead and get started on this. It tells me what it comes with. I guess I probably should have done this initially when I was setting this up. Yeah, I haven't cleaned everything yet, but I'll do that in a bit. Yeah, by the way, this is a good demonstration of how there are 8 rack positions because they flip upside down, and you can see they have a little bit of standoff to them on the sides, so it actually makes the elevation different. Pretty cool. We've already done this. Wow, I did not use the app to do that. I did that with the pizza option in the instruction manual. Apparently you can use the app to do that as well. That's pretty cool, actually. Okay, well, I can't proceed any further until this is done. So, okay, it allowed me to bypass it by just swiping to the left. So, and this is telling you why you can't just start things with your phone, which some people have complained about. But it makes sense that you can't, because obviously that's a liability for them. And it will let you know when things are done. So we'll see how smart this thing actually is. I'm not going to do a lot of cooking with it today, but take a look at this app. Let's do a little bit of a tour here. You can choose your ingredients. So I've got beef, for instance. And if I want to start with that, I can filter, and you can choose what type of... Okay, so first of all, you can do autopilot, which is pretty cool. So that'll show you stuff, I suppose, that's only for... I mean, maybe the sous vide also does this. Sous vide. But this is the Joule oven. I guess all of these are for mine, actually. And see these little buttons down in the lower left corner? You can actually start cooking with that. This autopilot button over here shows you the autopilot flight plan, which is pretty cool. That's actually how it manages temperature. And you can see how it fluctuates some at the top there because it's like broiling, almost like it's rotating essentially. And then it comes down for the end there to about 400. It's pretty cool. This is the big promise with this thing, is that it makes it a lot easier to cook stuff properly that would otherwise be a lot harder to make well. Pretty neat, right? And every step has full video to show you how to do this stuff. So if you really suck at cooking, which I kind of do, then it's kind of neat to have this sort of detail. Look at this. I mean, it literally shows somebody doing the stuff, as useless as that is, because everybody knows how to dump spices into a bowl. It does, in fact, show them dumping those exact spices. Pretty neat. So anyway, this is the promise of this app. It's almost like somebody called it the Netflix of cooking, where you just kind of go through and it just, basically is super easy. It's so low friction that you don't have to even think about it. I don't know if there's anything else out there like this. I mean, I know other companies are developing these sorts of things, but Breville's got a pretty good thing going here if they could actually make this work well. And we're going to find out when I start cooking with it whether that works. I'll come back with impressions on that. But for now, I'm pretty impressed with how this is laid out. By the way, I think you can download this app and look through these, and it just kind of truncates them if you want to go through it on your own. But I'll scroll through briefly here and just show you a few of these categories so you can get an idea of the types of things that are actually available on autopilot. Actually, these aren't all autopilot. It looks like some of these are other types of recipes. Yeah, these are like old style. Look at this. This is for like standard ovens, the not smart ovens, I guess. It does still set the temperature though. Did you see that? That's pretty cool. So if I go to this, for instance, I can hit set time and temp and it will do it automatically for me. I don't have to even go and do anything, which kind of makes it simple. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, it's a really good panoply of recipes out of the box. And of course, they're adding more to it all the time. They do have some partners that are providing some of the recipes, which is pretty cool. For instance, where are those listed? Let's see. I guess it's up here under partners. Yeah. So you've got all of these. Pretty cool. There's actually chef steps and things like that also. So I'm not sure where those are listed, but pretty cool. I like the app layout here. I think it's pretty neat. If it works well, then I think this is going to be something that we're going to find very useful as a family because we are very frequently busy and we can't always figure out what we're going to make for dinner. So this will be a nice thing to have sitting around. Oh, and by the way, the firmware update is complete. I have no idea what that actually did. There's no version history, unfortunately, so I don't really know what it improves or whatever. The oven is still very hot, by the way. It's been several minutes since I did that initial bake feature to try to get the chemicals off. There we go. I got a notification, as you can see at the bottom. It's updated now. I wish this thing cooled down a little better than it did, but it's also not very loud. I appreciate that. That's a nice feature as well. And it does seem well insulated, at least where it needs to be. I mean, on the right side where the display is, there's not a lot of heat over there. I'm going to actually switch back so I can show you this to you. So now that the firmware update is complete, we've got this thing paired with the app. Over here, it's very hot. But when you get over here, it's actually pretty cool to the touch, actually. It's just fairly warm. I wish they'd done that all around. I guess they can't do that because they have to have it cool down somehow and it's got to radiate heat. But it would have been nice if it'd come out the back or something instead of on the sides over here. This is the part that is truly hot to the touch still, even after several minutes of having completed. It's still very hot up here to the front as well. Oh, wow. And that door is hot. My gosh. So unfortunately, there's no escaping the heat on the exterior of this thing. If you have kids and they tend to run around and touch things, they will probably burn themselves if they get near this. So you'll have to educate them about that. Oh, and no sooner than I hit pause, or I mean, the actual fan turned off on this thing, which is, you know, you heard it wasn't very loud to start with. That's as loud as it gets, I think, other than when it's cooking, of course. And it's already done, so that wasn't so bad. I'm going to actually clean up these racks and things like that, and then I'm going to check out those, and I'll come back. All right, well, I've now got this back where it's going to actually live, and, you know, it fits pretty well, actually. It's not too bad. The handle comes out just beyond the edge of the counter when it's opened. It's not too bad. Now, when you have a rack in position 3 or 4, which is this middle spot right here, and 3 or 4 would be like either this way or this way, by the way. That allows you to use this magnetic auto eject feature. See that? Pretty cool. These magnets here kind of pull the rack out, so you don't have to pull it out to get your food out. Kind of neat. Somebody mentioned they were worried about it falling off the back, the stuff that you have sitting on the rack. I don't think that's probably going to be an issue. I guess maybe it could slip if you had something really slippery on there that was kind of moving around on the rack, but I don't see that being a problem probably. I'm actually going to try to air fry with this first. I think I'm probably going to make something really basic like broccoli or something, and I'll let you know how that goes. Okay, and given that this is an actual oven, you can use anything that's oven safe in it. That includes like aluminum foil or parchment paper or whatever. And a lot of people, when they use the air fryer feature, like to put the roasting pan at the bottom underneath the basket to help catch drips and make spills and clean up a little bit easier of spills. I also coated it with aluminum foil here very hastily because that was a really easy way to help improve this process. Okay, I'm going to move this up a little bit so you can see what's going on here. I'm going to go down to air fry 400. I guess I'm not sure there's a recipe in the app for broccoli. Let me check and see. Let's do what any good reviewer would do and show you a little tour of these buttons and knobs too, obviously. You've got the confirm and the selection knob here, start, stop, temperature. This is for Fahrenheit and Celsius. That is, I'm not sure what that is. I think it's super convection. This is a bit more button, which is one of those Breville branding things that basically means you want to put it back in for a little bit longer if it's not done enough. And that, I believe, is the frozen button that will add a little bit more heat and time, or a little bit less heat, I believe it is, and more time if the item is frozen. So I'm going to use that on my broccoli here and see if that works. This obviously adjusts time. And that's the favorite button down at the bottom where you can set the default for each individual cooking mode once you're done adjusting what you want to adjust. So let's try to do some broccoli here and see how this goes. Okay, this is probably ridiculous because all I have here is frozen broccoli because we've been out of town. We don't have a whole lot of stuff. But I'm going to try this recipe with frozen broccoli and see how poorly it actually turns out. And you can see the oven cooking, or preheating, I should say. I'm going to start cleaning things up here while we're doing a preheat. All right, so preheating is now complete. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven in rack position 3, which is right. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, and I'm going to hit confirm. And we begin to cook. And this broccoli is clearly frozen. It's going to be interesting to see how this works. I cannot press the frozen button, by the way, because it's using the app, which is kind of a bummer. So I can't really modify these settings once it starts to cook, which is fine. I mean, you can just cook it yourself and figure out your own settings. And I'm sure I can hit a bit more and cook it a little bit longer since it's frozen if I need to. But we'll see how this turns out, this horrible meal that I'm making. Also, another little note here. I forgot to mention this button actually is really the light. The Fahrenheit centigrade thing is a secondary function of sorts. So, and you can see here my frozen broccoli is thawing at the very least. We've got 5.5 minutes left to go. Stay tuned. Okay, so as cooking is getting close to finishing, you see the light comes on here. You can see a little bit of smoke coming out of this, and obviously this is pretty done. Take a look at that. It's probably a little overdone. Might be that this recipe wasn't perfect for my needs, but you know, again, that's why we're trying this thing out. Okay, it's done. And take this out. Obviously pretty done here. Clearly frozen broccoli is not what this was meant for. But it does taste good. Okay, so I know I did a little bit of a tour earlier of the app, but I thought I'd get a little bit more in depth in some of these features here for people who might be interested. So this is the home screen, and you can see they have a bunch of featured stuff, and some of it's pretty neat. You can actually, browse by certain categories, all kinds of cool stuff. You can search here from the search tab down at the bottom. You can actually just type things if you want. Like for instance, I could type pizza and get every pizza recipe that they've got pretty quickly, or everything related to pizza. There's a lot of that stuff, as you can tell. Some of it's just variations on, various other types of the same thing, but it's cool that they have it all kind of parceled out. And of course, you can choose different categories. So here you've got ingredients, time range, difficulty, meal type, dietary preferences, method, cook type, and then whether or not you want stuff that specifically has autopilot features, which is pretty cool because that's the stuff where you kind of walk away and it just does its own customizations for you. So that's neat. Also, under the search tab, I'm sorry, under the next tab, my bad, is this is like your personal stuff. So you can see your recent recipes here. These are the things I've browsed recently. Not necessarily that I've cooked. I haven't cooked many of these. And then you've got favorites, which are things that you've favorited using the little heart icon. See, I just unfavorited one of those. Of course, you can go back to here and favorite other things. If you like that particular recipe, it'll appear in favorites, obviously. And then, of course, stuff that historically, I don't know what the difference here is actually, because I haven't made some. Actually, I guess I have made all of these. So yeah, that's the difference. These are the things you've actually cooked. So you can look through your history of things you've cooked. That's cool too. So well laid out. But the coolest thing in this tab is definitely the My Recipes, which is beta, as you can see. But what this is you can make your own custom recipes. So you could do like, chicken bake or something like that. I don't know what the heck this would be. And then you can hit add under oven step and choose between any of the modes. You can start with that mode. If you hit the little eye up here in the upper right corner, it actually explains to you what these different modes are, in case you really don't know. And then once you're done figuring out what you want to do, so you start with your first step. I'm going to bake, say for 325. By the way, you can also choose whether you want convection, super convection, or no convection for that. Really neat. How many minutes you want it to bake for. There you go. That's the first step. I'm going to add the next autopilot phase, and I'm going to do maybe air fry. Who the heck knows? 400 super convection, 18 minutes. And look at all these different options. So broil, you can do high, medium, low. Roast, you got convection, super convection, of course. Pizza, same thing there. Convection, super convection. Cookies, same. Proof. And some of those are just different settings for temperature and time and things like that. But still nice to have those, separated out. It makes it pretty easy and pretty thoughtless. Reheat, again, this mostly just sets time and temperature. Slow cook, so low or high. Obviously, this is much like a crock pot or slow cooker of types. Keep warm, obvious what that does. Dehydrate, again, obvious. It's a long process typically, 24 hours or something. And then these are the 3 app exclusive modes. So you've got bottom bake, bottom broil, and outer broil. And what this does is it controls the heating elements, because again, remember there's 6 of them, in a specific way to cook things in a very particular fashion. So you can like it says here, direct intense heat to the outer edges of food to have a golden finish. It's really cool to have that option in the app, and then you can just go through and set how much time you want to do it. And here's my recipe. So, and when I hit autopilot, and I can have it auto start when it's done preheating, which is the feature that I hate, by the way. I guess that's mostly for when you're expecting people to put the food in already as it preheats, and then go ahead and just start the recipe after the preheating is done. I would always prefer to have that off personally, where it just alerts you when it's done and you stick the food in, but I guess it depends on the recipe. And then you hit save, which is not working because I think I'm screen recording. But anyway, normally you'd hit save and it would save this, and that would be under your recipes. And that's a really cool feature. So other than that, on the final tab here, you obviously have your list of appliances, which, I suppose they have different features for different appliances. Account details, preferences has stuff like the basic things here. Tips tells you how to clean the oven, how to use certain aspects of the oven. It explains how air frying works, basically what it is, like the science behind it. This is all really cool and all kind of bonus extras that, they didn't have to include.
but I think it's neat that they did. And then this actually recommends equipment that works best for the Breville oven. Really cool. So I like the app. I think it's pretty well made. I think it's pretty well designed and laid out. And I think you'll like it too. So as I play with this more, I will report back with my overall impressions. But so far, I'll say this thing does at least live up to part of its promise in the sense that you don't have to think too hard about the food after you put it in and start cooking it, which is the whole idea. Because for people who are busy, but also still want to make a variety of different types of foods, don't want to think too hard about the recipes because the recipes are right here if you want them, and don't want to think too hard about when to change particular settings in the oven and things like that. That's precisely what this is about. Is it expensive? Kind of. But for someone who thinks they could get some value out of that, it could easily pay for itself. You know, if you don't pay for like 5 meals of takeout for a family of 5, you could easily pay for this entire thing, basically. So, anyway, that's my overall impressions. I hope you've enjoyed this, and come back, and I'll have more in the near future.